As Dan was gone longer and you were in the home, did any of the problems as far as how you were feeling, security, insecure, did they get worse at all?
Yeah, he wouldn't give me any answers about the money, wouldn't give me any answers about anything. My dad's birthday was happening in New York. I saw an opportunity to I just gave him all the kids and I took off and said, here, you deal with this. And I gave him the kids and went to New York, and I spoke to my parents about what was going on, and we looked at real estate in New York. I figured if it was going to lead to a divorce, I would just take the kids and move back east.
Now, was the trip to New York, had that been pre-planned?
Yes.
And what was the occasion for that?
My father's 70th birthday.
And did you go back to New York?
Yes, by myself.
Your Honor, I would have double D appears to be the receipt from American Airlines, 1985. Sorry. Did you, do you recognize this, Mrs. Broderick?
Yes, it's a plane ticket with my name on it, American Airlines, San Diego to Kennedy Airport and back again.
Okay. And did you in fact go on that trip?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, was during that springtime of 1985, did you continue to look for homes? Or was it your understanding that you were looking for a family home, that everyone was going to move in, including Dan?
Right, because when we left Coral Reef, when we moved out of Coral Reef to go to the rental, the plan was that the insurance would refurbish Coral Reef perfectly and we'd sell it. And he told all the neighbors and he told the kids and he told me that we were never moving back to Coral Reef. We were just repairing it to sell it, and we were going to go from the rental to one of these new houses we were looking at. In fact, we had offers in on several, and we have the paperwork for all of them. Right up until the month before he left, we were putting offers in on substantial homes in La Jolla.
Did you know did you talk to him at all about whether the rental was going to be extended from the June date?
I first talked to the people who owned the house. When Dan first left, I called them in Denver and told them I had a problem and could I stay on in the house beyond June, and they said yes, no problem. But then later I found out in writing from Dan that he had informed them in writing that we would be keeping to the original terms of the lease, which meant getting out in June.
Okay. And that was June 1st?
I don't know if it was June 1st. It may have been June 15th.
Okay. And was he, at that time, did you ever ask him, Your Honor, I would like to be marked next in order. So it appears to be a residential lease. Showing you what's marked EE for identification. Can you tell me? Showing you what's been marked EE for identification. Can you tell me what that is?
That's the lease on the La Jolla Shores house from September 16th to June 15th, 84-85 school year.
Okay, so you understood it was June 15th from
I
this
didn't.
lease?
Well, I've never seen this lease until much later. I never signed this lease, so Dan told me it was June 15th.
Okay. Now, what was Dan telling you about Linda and your marriage at that time?
At exactly which time?
Objection, Your Honor. Vegas to time and also compound question.
Rephrase it, Mr. Okay. Was Dan telling you anything about Linda in around May, June of 1985?
Oh, yes, that she just simply worked for him, and she was an innocent young girl, and there was absolutely nothing going on. And there was no affair with her, and he was not even dating her, but he needed his space, and he was living at Coral Reef. And after I put the children there to go to my dad's party, when I came back, I left them there because I had to move out. Started packing boxes and moving out of the rental. And it was livable then, and the kids were home. It was our only home.
Okay. And what was he telling you about the marriage?
He wasn't telling me anything about the marriage. He just needed his space.
Okay, so he wasn't telling you the marriage was over?
No.
Okay.
No, we were still buying a house.
Did you?
Through all this time, we were always negotiating on and buying a house.
In fact, did you find a house and negotiate?
It wasn't that I found the house just then. It was the same property we had looked at before. It was still available. The price had gone down literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. We ended up buying a property that we had been looking at for a long time, yes, with only the intention of knocking the house that stood on it down and building the dream house that Dan wanted.
Okay. And was there a time that you were you remember when it was that that house was bought?
Right around when I had to get out of the rental, right in June of '85.
And during the time, were you seeing any anyone about constructing a new house there?
Yes. Dan had bought two separate lots in Fairbanks Ranch.
Stay. Okay. First of all, if you can answer the question yes, and then I'll give you the chance, or no, whatever it is, then I'll give you the chance to explain, okay? But it's easier just if we do that. Did you talk to somebody about the house?
Yes, Don Edson.
Okay. And why was it that you talked to Don Edson?
We've been having conversations with Don Edson over the past several years. Dan had gone to Fairbanks Ranch and purchased 2 lots without even telling me in, I believe, 1983. And he wanted to move to Fairbanks Ranch when there were no houses there. It was just dirt. And I wasn't real wild about that idea. One, I never saw my husband anyway, and here we were moving further away, and he was going to put a commute on either end of his day, and I didn't want to live further away. And 2, there was nothing out there for children. There was nothing out there in the way of a neighborhood. There were no markets. It was just
Excuse me,
dirt.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I'm going to object non-responsive. I think the question was with respect to the cottage sale of the house.
Stand. Okay. But was there, when the lots were bought, it was because of the Fairbanks Ranch lots that there was contact with Don Edson?
Conversations with Don Edson about building a custom home, yes.
Okay. And now, it was sometime in June of 1985 that the property was transferred to Cali de Cielo to you and Daniel Broderick?
Yes, it was supposed to be a simultaneous closing with me having to get out of the rental, but there was dry rot in one of the bathrooms, and Dan argued with the owners about them making those repairs before we closed. So therefore, the day I had to get out of the rental, or we all had to get out of the rental, we couldn't make a move into the other house. So everything ended up going back to Coral Reef.
And when you say everything, what are you talking about?
Literally everything.
You mean furniture?
All of our
clothes?
worldly possessions, the cars, the surfboards, the tennis rackets, the clothes, the furniture, everything.
Okay. And showing you what's been marked FF for identification, if you could look at the recording date of the document, was that approximately the date that eventually the house was able to close, June 28th?
Yes, June 28th, '85.
Okay. And at this point in time, you were still, there were still conversations with Don Edson about tearing that house down and building a new one?
Yes, he was happy that we found a lot that we could both agree upon, and he was going to start right away doing soils testing, because we were knocking this house down completely and going to restructure the whole lot. And the first step was a soils engineer, and I had to get a $5,000 check from Dan to retain a soils engineer.
And was Dan involved in these discussions?
Yes, and he told me to go see Donez, and he told me to make the plans for this house. And it wasn't a house that you could remodel. The foundations were bad and stuff. It was a house you had to take away and start again.
And when you were talking about it, was he talking about it that you were going to live there yourself, going to live there as a family?
I was going to be, and this applied to Fairbanks Ranch too, I was going to be more or less the supervisor of building a large custom home. So far as the plans and the appointments, it's a full-time job, and Dan was too busy. So I was supposed to be the person that was going to be in charge of this project.
But who was going to move into the house? Were you going to move in yourself, or you and Dan?
Well, I moved in the beginning to give Dan his space, but once the house was torn down, I would have had to move back to Coral Reef.
Okay.
And that's
so,
why there was no furniture in or anything. This house was getting torn down.
So the plan was not to be separate property. The plan was going to be that eventually both you and Dan were going to be moving in here.
We never mentioned anything about separate property. We bought it in both of our names for the family, but we bought the lot, not the house.
Okay. And showing you what has been marked GG for identification, a letter with Mr. Edson, was that part of the discussions you had in tearing the house down?
Yes.
Okay. At any time during the period of time between when you were out of the rental and in the house on Cali de Cielo, did you ever stay at Coral Reef?
Yes, I did.
And did you remain in contact with the children at the Coral Reef home?
Yes, but now it's the end of June, so right around exactly the time that the new house closed and I could start this project, the children were sent out of town to camps.
Okay. And did you know that they were going to be going out of town?
I didn't really know ahead of time. I wasn't consulted or I wasn't part of the plans for it, but they were attending a camp called Gold Arrow, which is a really good camp, and they had been before. So I wasn't at all afraid or anxious that they weren't being sent to a good place. I was just kind of surprised that, I finally got in this house and now there's no... I'd never been in San Diego without any of my children before. So
Okay. Now, when you did visit with your children over at Coral Reef, well, what was Cali de Cielo like when you first purchased it? What condition was it in?
It was a mess. There had been several generations and lots of numbers of people living in there, and they tried to market it as an 8-bedroom house. And what it really was is they made the garage into 3 bedrooms, although it was still a garage. They just called it 3 bedrooms, and then they put curtains down the middle of one room and called it 2 bedrooms and added a bath. So they thought it was an 8-bedroom house, but what it really was a 3-bedroom house, 3 real bedrooms, and a bunch of choppy up other messy stuff. And there were holes in the floors. Every single door had been kicked through and cracked and broken. There were no kitchen appliances, or the few that were there were so rusty and disgusting they had to be gotten rid of. It was a leaking roof, and there was terrible termite and roof rat damage. It was a mess. And the landscaping was a mess inside and out. And it was a perfect house to do what we wanted to do.
Did had you at the time that you bought it, did you buy it with plans to remodel that home?
Objection as to mental.
Okay. Now, at that period of time, when we get to June or July of 1985, did you at that point in time have some idea of what kind of money your family might have or you might have?
No, there were no discussions of money at all, there were no discussions about breaking up. We weren't discussing that. So there were no discussions about monthly money or anything. Dan was just paying all the bills.
So at that point in time, you weren't getting letters that indicated you were getting some kind of so much a month?
I don't believe so. I don't think that started until October.
So up until that time, it was, you were using credit cards and those bills were being paid with no discussion?
Actually, I wasn't spending anything. I had $1 million closed. I wasn't going anywhere. I really wasn't spending anything.
Okay. Now, when you moved into Cali de Cielo, did you have furniture when you moved in?
No, none. It all went to Coral Reef the day we moved out of the rental.
Okay. And was that the furniture that the family was using?
We only had one set of furniture, yes.
Okay. And did you, how were you living at Cali de Cielo?
I was temporarily camping on the floor, and I hadn't moved any furniture in or anything because I was still believing that this house was being torn down. And I was giving Dan his space, and the soils engineer was supposed to arrive and start doing his thing, and then that fell through because of the $5,000.
Now, during the time that, did you go over and when the children were at Coral Reef, were you visiting them on a daily basis?
Sure, every single day.
Okay.
I was still
And
their mom, and so I was the one who did everything with them.
and at that point in time, did Dan have some maids or housekeepers that were living at the house taking care of your children?
Yes, there was a long string of maids or housekeepers. I can't remember all their names. I think the first one was a girl with real curly hair, brown hair, but I don't remember her name.
Okay. And during that time, did you have some things that happened to your personal possessions that were at the Coral Reef home that bothered you?
That was the next babysitter. That was Marta, who ended up wearing my clothes and stuff. She had asked me, and this is the next babysitter. We had problems with the first one, too, of a different nature. But the next babysitter kept asking me if she could have all the stuff that was in the garage. And all the stuff that was in the garage was not excess stuff. It was all of my personal things, because I'm only living at this other house on the carpet. I don't have anything. I have a suitcase. So she's talking about all my clothes and furniture and everything. And I told her really nicely that that's not garage sale stuff. That's the real stuff. That's not extra, and it's not being thrown away. So she gave up on asking me and asked Dan if she could have stuff in the garage, and he gave her my brass bed and a sofa. And one day when I came to the house, she was wearing my clothes. She answered the door in my clothes.
Were you upset?
I just said, where did you get those clothes? And she said, well, they said I could have anything I wanted. Yeah, I was upset.
Did anything happen with your furniture?
That was the furniture that he gave. She had removed it from the house and took it wherever she was living. Gave away the furniture. And I told this woman at least 3 times that she couldn't have it.
Did you get upset about that?
Absolutely, and she ended up bringing the bed back. I don't remember if she brought the sofa back or not, but yes. And Kim more or less went along with this and said the woman could have anything she wanted. So I told Kim, no, babysitters cannot have my stuff. Do not be giving things away.
Okay. Now, how were you feeling at this juncture? Was about what was going on?
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, this might be a good time to take the afternoon recess, Mr. Early. Appropriate time to break.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our afternoon recess at this time. We'll be in recess until 5 minutes after 3. Please remember the admonition.
In the summer of 1985, what happened to the plans for the house that you had bought, the soils report and the other things on Cali de Cielo?
When Dan was supposed to write the $5,000 check for the soils engineer, he said that we should put it off for just a little while till September because he was having a cash crunch because of the down payment for this house, which was, I guess, a lot of money.
Okay. Did you put maximum down, minimum down on that house?
I don't know. I expect the minimum.
The, and,
And so everything was on hold till September.
okay. And during the time, now, your children were out of town, is that correct?
They were sent, yes,
And the
end of
plan-
June.
And the plans on the house were on hold?
Just until September, right, so we had the summer there, and I was giving Dan his space.
And how are you feeling generally?
Well, I had read all these books on midlife crisis and stuff, and they were saying, you know, it was a second adolescence, and the worst thing that I could have done as a wife is become like a nagging mother and say, you gotta do this and you gotta do that. So I was giving him his space and not making any demands on him, just giving him his space. But I was really disoriented. I didn't have a home. I was on the floor of the empty house. The kids were gone, so I wasn't visiting them and engineering their lives. And I wasn't hanging out with Dan and being his wife, so I took a trip. I left town.
And where'd you go?
I went up to Banff, Jasper and Lake Louise, Victoria, Seattle, up in that area, on a organized tour because I didn't want to do it alone.
Now, at some point in time, after you came back from Canada, was there, were you still discussing with Dan what his plans were for the future?
I was still expecting to get the $5,000 to do the soils engineer in September, like he said. So the kids came back and school started again, and I started seeing them every single day and speaking to them every single day. And we were supposed to go ahead with this house.
How about the
Plan.
future of how much space he was going to need and where you were going from there? Were there discussions about that? And about Linda at all?
The discussions about Linda were more or less like the time that the cake was on the counter. That turned into a discussion about Linda. But I wasn't really having discussions with him about anything because he didn't like to be questioned and he didn't like to be cornered and he didn't like, you know, he didn't want me to make any demands on him. He hated to be cornered.
And how had it been? Were you used to letting him make the decisions, or was that something that you were comfortable that you should be making the decisions?
No, I'd never made any of the decisions, and at this point, I didn't feel I had the power to make any decisions. I wasn't going to him with a list of, I want this and I want that and do this. I simply went to him with, Dan, what's happening here? What are we doing here? You know, you be in charge, you tell me, what's happening? What's the plan? What are we doing here? And he wouldn't do that because he just wouldn't.
The, was there a, at some point in time, did Dan talk to you about going to counseling?
Yes, there was one day we went to a Dr. Zedimer for counseling.
Okay. Now, what was the purpose of going to counseling, or what was your belief the purpose was?
I thought we were going to counseling, and I was absolutely very happy about it. It was a doctor he found, because earlier on I wanted him to go to counseling with me, and he wouldn't have gone to anyone that I found or anything. So this was a doctor he found, and we went together in one car to La Jolla, and I thought we were finally going to honestly discuss what's going on in our marriage here.
And do you know who was that person that you went to?
Dr. Matthew Zedimer.
Okay. And when you went to Dr. Zedimer, what happened? Did you two of you go into counseling?
We went in and met the doctor, but then Dan was going to leave me there and leave. Because he was, you know, I was the one having the nervous breakdown. I was the one having trouble in life. And Dan wasn't going to be part of the discussion or the talk. It was my problem. And I said right in front of Dr. Zedimer that it's not just my problem. I mean, it's my problem with his affair or the affair I'm suspicious of with his office girl. So I can't really just discuss my problems with you without him here.
And did Dan indicate anything at that point, whether you were just crazy or not?
Well, he didn't need counseling and he didn't want counseling. There was nothing wrong in his life. I was the one having the problems. So I'm the only one who needed help.
At some point in time, did you have a discussion with Dan where he told you about Linda?
Dan himself, finally, yes, October 28th.
Okay. And what led up to that?
I'm not well, I had a phone call from Larry's wife, or I was talking to Larry, his brother's wife, and she informed me that Dan went to the annual Oktoberfest party in Denver and that he brought Linda Kolkena with him. I couldn't believe it. You know, here he kept telling me, I can't control where she goes, if she goes to this party or that party. It's just a coincidence that she goes where I go, and it's all business. So I called him up and I said, I want to hear this in person. I want to know how Linda Kolkena got on a plane and ended up at your brother's party in Denver. I really want to hear this explanation. So he came over, and I was like, come on, let's hear it. I want to hear the truth.
Did he try to take you anywhere that day?
Well, he told me the truth. He finally told me the truth.
Okay. Now, and what did he tell you?
All he wouldn't tell me any details or anything else. All he told me was I was right. I've been right all along.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, it kind of made me feel better that at least I knew the truth, but it made me feel like that he had taken really gross, unfair advantage of me for a long time, switching. You know, now I'm standing in this house that's empty. My kids are gone. I have no money. I have no control. I mean, it's a little late to be telling me the truth. And you know, and then I've got all this stuff going on in my mind about typical Dan Broderick. You know, don't even begin negotiating till you're sitting on their chest. You know, and knock someone to their knees. And I've been really badly used and abused by a liar for over 2 years. And I was very upset and very angry about it, and he wanted to take me to a mental institution. That was his answer to me getting upset.
Would you go with him?
Thank goodness, no. I wasn't dressed. I had been out that day at something, and I had a slip and a robe over it. I didn't have clothes on, and he tried pushing me he literally pushed me in the bedroom and tried to make me put clothes on, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't get dressed. Otherwise, he would have dragged me off.
And were you upset at that time?
I was absolutely furious because I felt he had really lied and manipulated me out of houses and manipulated me out of the kids, and I just couldn't. I was very I don't even know the words for it. He had looked me in the eye and lied and lied and lied and lied a billion times and kept telling me, you know, this isn't what's happening, this is what's happening.
Did, at some point in time, I think I asked you some questions about somebody wearing your clothes, having your clothes. Do you remember approximately when that was?
I know it was at least the second, maybe the third babysitter, and the babysitters didn't start until September of that year. So, no, I don't remember when it was. Maybe November.
But it was in the fall of 1985.
Right, it was after October.
Okay. And was that after you learned that after Dan told you about Linda Kolkena?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after in the fall of 1985, after you learned about Linda Kolkena, did Dan ever tell you about? Did he talk to you about divorce?
You have to re-ask that question. I don't know what you mean.
Sometime in 1985, in the fall of 1985, did you learn about Dan's intentions to get a divorce?
I received papers at my house.
Okay. And do you remember when that was? Do you have any idea of when that was?
It was in October sometime. I think it was before he came to my house and told me the truth, because I think I was hysterical about those papers, and that's why we were talking, and he came over. Like maybe the same day or the day before.
No, I would just ask if I could mark if I could mark a large board next in order.
All right, double H.
And I'm going to have a series of boards that go on. I don't want it to be double H1, 2, 3, or just keep going.
Double H is just going to be a large poster board with
Yes.
Velcro fasteners?
Yes, Your Honor. It has 3 categories: legal documents, Betty, and Dan, and miscellaneous.
And then let's make them double H, 1, 2, et cetera. That's all right?
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right, so that way.
Your Honor, while we're on exhibits, so I don't forget, over the weekend, I would ask if I could withdraw the exhibit that was the bed mattress so that it doesn't have to sit in the courtroom.
That was Exhibit B. I have no objection to that. I assume people have no objection? Yeah.
No objection.
All right, Exhibit B is withdrawn and released, Mr. Early.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I put a number of items that on this board, and I placed in the category with Betty, it's already been mentioned as to with Kim left.
Your Honor, excuse me,
I'm
I
sorry.
think that was already ruled on the court with respect to use of the time.
You're talking about double H-1,
Yes.
and you've marked the items that we previously agreed on there?
Well, these are the items, Your Honor, that there's already been testimony on
All right.
as to when Kim left the house, when Daniel was left the house.
All right.
And I just wanted to make a record that there's no strips as to legal documents or proceedings on this one.
All right, go ahead.
Your Honor, there's just a mark on April 6th, Kim left with father on April.
Your Honor, excuse me, I have no objection to those minutes. I need to repeat them for the record.
Oh, that's fine. I don't mind.
But to make the record clear, double H-1 represents a 6-month time frame, I believe. Could you tell me what that is?
That's a 6-month time frame from January 1st through June 30th, Your Honor, 1985.
Thank you, go ahead.
Thank you. We don't need to make a record of this one, Your Honor.
All right. Just by way of housekeeping, while she's marking some other things, Mr. Early, I believe your Exhibit G was the time period January to June 30th of '85, so do you want to withdraw G, or is that something different?
What, Your Honor?
I believe your Exhibit G,
That was last year.
you marked an Exhibit G this year.
Oh, that's right, I did mark an Exhibit G.
Thank you.
I did.
You want to withdraw that and relabel it HH-1?
I would, Your
All
Honor.
right. I assume there's no objection? All right. Then defense G is relabeled HH-1. HH-1-1.
I think I'm in big trouble.
Contempt of clerk?
Your Honor, I would ask if I could have, which hasn't been previously marked, I could mark, have this marked as HH2. It's a 1985 July through December.
All right, so
I may have a moment to show this return.
all right.
Fine. But I'll go through. Your Honor, we can just do this later. I'll go through the other.
All right.
items first.
It's fine.
In now, after you found out that that there was going to be that there was problems with the marriage, did you go over the house and find a maid at that time with wearing your clothes?
Objection, Your Honor, ask an answer.
Well, overruled. You can answer it again.
Did you find it after that time, someone wearing your clothes?
Yes, I believe that was the sequence of that, right.
And how did you feel about that?
Objection, Your Honor, ask an answer. You testify.
Sustained.
Okay. Did you find, and it was at that time you found someone, at least there was problems with your furniture?
Yes.
Did, in the fall of 1985, is there any function that you normally attend?
Fall of 1985 was a particular function that year that I worked on the committee and I had to attend, yes.
And what function was that?
It was the annual ladies' luncheon at the Bishop's School where my daughter Lee was a student.
Okay. And who would be present at that luncheon?
Several hundred mothers and friends and all ladies. And it was outdoors and it was a fashion show and it was very nice.
Okay. Now, during the time that you were married to Dan Broderick, would he talk to you about his work?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. And what would he tell you about how, did he tell you what he would do in lawsuits to affect the opponent or the other side?
Yes, to humiliate people, yes. He told me about, should I tell you?
Yes.
About one time he had to serve, or he needed to serve papers on a doctor, and he knew that the doctor was an important person in his church, and he purposely served the doctor on Christmas Eve in the front row of his church with the papers just for maximum humiliation and upset. And, should I keep going?
Yes. What else did he tell you about the way he practiced, the way at least he was practicing law?
Just that, you play surprise and hardball. That was a very familiar term, and you do everything you can to make the person say uncle. Make the person give up, and you don't let up, and you just pound at them.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, did you find out that that he tried to serve the divorce papers at any particular place?
Yes, I found a handwritten note in his very distinctive handwriting that on the date of the bishop's luncheon, it said the date, and it said attempted service at the bishop's luncheon, and that was going to be the way he was going to serve me the very first papers of this entire divorce.
Okay. And how
And
did,
so it brought back all the memories of surprise and hardball, and it wasn't a nice thing to do.
did you keep that note?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you give that note to anybody during your divorce trial?
I used it at the divorce trial as an illustration that this legal thing
Objection,
didn't.
Your Honor, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Did you give it to Mr. Barry? At some point in time, did Mr. Barry get a hold of it?
At the divorce trial, yes.
And have you ever seen that note since then?
No.
The Now, did Dan ever talk to you about, was there any conversation about you being ill or sick?
Ever since 1983, those were the conversations, is that I was delusional and I was paranoid and I was imagining things and I was having a nervous breakdown and my wheels were coming off and I was crazy and I was sick. Yes, when he had the children and I wasn't living with them, he'd always tell them, "Oh, your poor mother's sick. Your mother's sick."
And did you, now after you received the divorce papers, did you have contact, did Dan contact you at any time in writing? On your birthday, did he contact you?
Yes, I received flowers with a card that said, "I'm sorry you're not feeling well under the circumstances. Love, Dan." I think that's what it said.
And did you know where he was at that time?
No, I didn't.
How did that card make you feel?
I was furious because it was just like the night that he finally told me the truth. It's not that I'm crazy or that I'm sick, you know. I'm angry about things, and I'm feeling fine under the circumstances. I'm just angry about what he had done.
Did
But I'm not sick.
I would like a card marked I for notification.
So Mark?
Showing you what's been marked I for identification. Do you recognize this card?
I haven't seen it in a long time. That's Dan's handwriting. I know the circumstances may possibly have a happy birthday. Should I read it?
Just tell me if you recognize the card.
And hope you start to feel better soon. Love, Dan. That's the card. It has my birth date on it, 1985.
Were you physically sick during that period of time?
Not at all.
Now, during the, after you were served, told that there was going to be a divorce, did you contact anybody? Did you contact an attorney at some point in time in Los Angeles?
When I first got served with the divorce papers, that's the only thing I knew to do. I didn't know what else to do with them. So I started calling San Diego lawyers. It didn't occur to me to go to LA. I called about 8 lawyers right away, trying to hire a lawyer to defend myself. That's what I said. I was the defendant and he was the plaintiff, and I had to defend this action. And I needed a lawyer. And so I called all the lawyers, all the good divorce lawyers of reputation that I knew in San Diego County.
Were any of them willing to take the case?
No, and that one day, every single one of them said absolutely no. They would have nothing to do with the case because they knew Dan so well.
Okay. And did you eventually go to Los Angeles for a lawyer?
Only because a local attorney.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you eventually go to a Los Angeles lawyer?
I was referred to one by a San Diego attorney, yes.
Okay. And why did you go? Why was the reason that you went to a Los Angeles attorney?
Because the well-known San Diego attorney advised me to quit trying, that no one in this town is going to help you, that you have to go out of town. And as a personal favor to me, although I've never met the woman, as a personal favor to me, she arranged this appointment with Mr. Jaffe.
Okay.
And he did it as a favor to her
And where was Mr. Jaffe located?
in Los Angeles.
Okay. And did you reach an agreement with Mr. Jaffe?
He said he really didn't want to take the case. He didn't want to come to San Diego. It was inconvenient for him. He had more cases than he knew what to do with up there. But as a favor to this other attorney, he would try and represent me. And I signed an agreement. Should I keep going? I saw him the one day. I I hired him, I signed the agreement, he told me not to worry.
Objection, non-responsive.
That's not a question.
Okay. What did he tell you? Did you talk to him about money and how he was going to get paid? You can answer that yes or no.
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled, you can answer that.
He told me that he would need a $10,000 retainer, that his fees on my half of the case alone would be over $100,000, and that I should not sign anything, and he would get the money, the $10,000 retainer from Dan, because I didn't have any money, and he would get it from Dan, and the court would decide later whose half of the money it actually came out of. But since Dan controlled all the money, he had to get it from Dan. And he said that was pretty usual, and I shouldn't worry about anything.
Okay. Now, at this period of time, you knew Dan's family. You knew he had a brother, Larry. Is that correct?
Yes?
Did you know whether Dan or not had a retirement account at this time?
No. I mean, I knew in a very vague sense that he had a pension fund, is what he called it.
Okay. Did you know what was in the pension fund?
No idea.
Did you know whether he was transferring money from the pension fund in any time in 1985 to Larry?
No, I had no knowledge of the finances at all.
Okay. And did he ever talk to you prior to leaving in February of 1985 about giving large sums of money to Larry Broderick?
Yes.
Okay. What did he tell you?
That his brother Larry had all these investments in mind, condos and historical buildings and duplexes and gold futures and bull semen. I mean, all kinds of investments, because that's Larry's field, is investments, I guess. And so Dan gave Larry humongous sums of money to be partners in investments.
Okay. Now, was
Over
this
the
all
years we were married.
Was this all in January of 1985, or was this over a period of time?
It was over a period of time.
Okay. Did you know what money had gone to Larry Broderick?
No.
Did you know whether your name was on any of that stuff?
Well, I assume since I never saw anything or never signed anything, that no, there's no way my name could have been on it. No, my name wasn't on anything.
Did you have control of any of those assets in 1985?
No.
Okay. Were you able to sell any of those assets to pay for whatever you wanted to, fixing the house, doing things in 1985?
I had no saleable assets at all. The car was even leased, so I couldn't even sell the car. And the house I was living in, the new house, had no equity at all. So even if I sold it, I wouldn't make any money. And it was in Dan's name as well as mine, so I couldn't go off and sell the house. So no, I had nothing I could sell.
Okay. What did Mr. Jaffe, to your knowledge, did you talk to him whether he requested the money from Dan Broderick? Did he tell you whether he requested it?
Yes, he did. He requested it. And it was not forthcoming
Okay.
for quite a while.
During any time that you were, when Mr. Jaffe was your attorney, did you ever learn that Mr. Broderick ever paid him any money?
No. No. Okay.
So there was no time where the retainer was paid for Mr. Jaffe to do anything?
Objection, Your Honor, it has to be answered.
Sustained.
Okay. Did Mr. Jaffe tell you anything about keeping notes or records of what was going on?
I'm not sure if it was Mr. Jaffe, but some attorney told me to start writing things down.
Okay. And in the fall of 1985, did you start keeping some kind of journal as to events that were transpiring?
Yes, just so I wouldn't forget. But when I started writing it in 85, I started writing things about what happened leading up to 85.
Okay. So were you writing things in the journal that were presently happening at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And were you also sometimes writing in the journal things that had happened in the past?
Yes.
Okay. And did the journals have dates on them?
Yes.
Okay. And So they would say that this goes from January of '85, just to pick a number, to October of '85.
Yes.
Now, would you only write things that happen in it, or were you expressing your feelings at times?
I was living all alone in the house, and I was very scared about things.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Were you writing things in the journal that, were you only writing things that had directly happened, or sometimes were you expressing your feelings?
I was talking to myself in it. I call it ranting and ravings. I had nobody else to talk to, so I'd yell at myself in it a lot. And then I'd put more, on this day this happened, on this day that happened. But a lot of it was narrative stuff.
Now, in 1985, at some point in time, were you able to spend the holidays, for instance, Thanksgiving, with the children?
No,
Okay. Were you able to spend Christmas with the children?
no.
Okay. Where did the children go in 1985?
Dan took them skiing with Linda Kolkena in Utah. And Brian Monahan and his girlfriend and his kids were along too.
Okay. Did you receive, while they were skiing while they were skiing at Christmas, did you receive any notes from Dan Broderick? Again.
Yes,
And what did you receive?
another floral arrangement with another card.
Now, had you ever, in your life, spent a Christmas holiday away from your family?
No. Never sent me flowers before either.
Did you want to be with your family?
Absolutely.
I would ask for another card to be marked,
Double J.
double J.
So marked.
Showing you what's been marked double J for identification. Have you seen this card before? Okay. And is that the card that you received during Christmas time?
Yes.
During the time that you, when you found that your clothes had been given away and your furniture given away, did you get upset?
Objection, Your Honor, has to answer.
Sustained.
Did you do anything at Mr. Broderick's home? And did you express your anger at the home at Coral Reef, your family home?
I don't remember particularly on that particular one day. No, I don't remember that particular one day.
You do remember being very angry, though?
For different reasons, yes.
During 1985, in the fall of 1985, had you gotten involved again in any kind of sports activities for your children?
Yes, I was coaching Rhett's soccer team.
And was there a purpose that you were coaching that team?
Yes, both boys wanted to play soccer, and you need a lot of parents to run the program. And if you want your kid on a team, you have to volunteer to do something, so I volunteered to do that so that Rhett could get on a team. Danny wasn't on a team that season.
Now, when you coached that team in 1985, did it have any other, I mean, was that something you were planning to do if your children weren't going to play?
No, I did it so that Rhett could be on a soccer team. That was the only reason I did it.
showing you a photograph that's been labeled KK for identification, Your Honor, and it appears to be Betty Broderick with with 9 children with names as stingers.
All right, so marked.
Okay. Showing you what's been marked KK for identification. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the soccer team that...
Yes, that's right, in the middle.
Okay, so Rhett would be the third from the right, not counting yourself.
Right.
Okay. Now, during the time in 1985, where you... Was he in a league where there was practice days too?
Yes, the whole soccer season was a disaster. Rhett never got to play.
Okay. Was there a time that you went over to, sometime in the fall of 1985 when you went over to pick up Rhett to play on a soccer game?
I had to pick him up on Saturdays. The babysitter was supposed to take him to practices on Wednesday, but she wouldn't do it. And then I had to pick him up on Saturdays, yes. And I
Okay.
called ahead. You want this particular Saturday?
Yes, if you could tell me about the particular Saturday.
It was well into the season, and again, the only reason I'm doing this is so Rhett can have a team. And on Wednesdays, the babysitter, who lived very close to the field and did have a car to drive, for some reason, whether it was her own or Dan told her to, would not deliver Rhett to the field to practice or to play. So I was real upset about that. And then they wouldn't bring him to games on Saturday or anything. So there's one particular Saturday, I called and I said, "Are you ready? I'm going to come over and get you." And Kim told me that he had his little uniform on, which is in that picture, and he was indeed ready, and I would be there in the few minutes it took me to go up the hill and get him. I was on my way over. I hung up the phone and I got in the car and I went to go get him.
And when you got to the house, what happened?
There was absolutely nobody there. None of the children, no Dan, nothing. Nobody was there.
Okay. Did you find out where they went?
Not until much later. I went to a neighbor's house and said, "What happened? Where'd they go?" And she didn't know anything, and the car was gone, and they were all gone.
Were you upset?
Very. I mean, I called. They knew I was coming. It only took me a few minutes to get there. I felt that Dan purposely took the kids so that I couldn't get Rhett to the soccer game.
Okay. And did you do anything at the house that day?
Yes, it was my house, and I was in the house, and this is after I definitely knew about Linda. And the kids had been complaining about no food. That was a big thing, about no food. So I looked in the refrigerator, and there was no food. All that was in there was cheap champagne, not one speck of food. And so I got mad, and I took the bottle of cheap champagne, and I threw it through a window as a, "Thanks a lot, I've been here." But I had to leave. I had to run to the soccer game because I had to be there to run it.
Okay. Did you later have an argument with Mr. Broderick when you found out where he said that he had to take the children that morning? Do you know?
It was hard for me to have an argument with Mr. Broderick. He wouldn't talk to me.
Were you later told where Rhett was when you came to pick him up?
He took them down to the Save-On drugstore in Pacific Beach for something.
There was a question of a Boston cream pie. Did you at some time throw a Boston cream pie?
I didn't throw it, no.
What did you do with it?
Smushed it.
And what is a Boston cream pie?
I was at the house visiting the kids, and I was there for a while. And when I was leaving, a Boston cream pie is a cake. It's the size of a cake. It's 2 layers tall, and it's just like a cake. And they call it a pie because instead of frosting in the center is some sort of custard. And then it's got chocolate icing, but it's basically a cake. And it was on, should I keep going?
Yes.
It was on the counter as I was leaving, and I believe Marta was the babysitter then. And I said, it looked like a child made it, so I said, "Oh, who made the cake?" And she said, "Linda." And I said, "Linda who?" And she said, "Linda at the office." And I said, "Oh."
Now, was
And-
that at a time when Dan was still denying that there was a relationship with Linda Kolkena, or do you remember?
It's all so close. It's in October there. I don't remember. I think he was still denying her. That's why I would have said Linda who. Anyway, I'm not done.
Okay.
When she turned her back or something, I took the cake and I smushed it around his bed on the bedspread and stuff. Like nice Boston cream pie.
Did you get, you
Oh, I
got
got in
billed
trouble.
for, you got billed for the cleaning bill at some time?
I got in big trouble, and it was a typical Dan Broderick trouble. He billed me for so much more damage than any one little cake could have done. You know, it was a plaintiff attorney's complaint. He claimed I dirtied everything he ever owned and had to send it to the cleaners, and he billed me a huge amount. And he greatly exaggerated what damage was done by the Boston cream pie.
Did,
But he billed me for it, yes.
now sometime, were you, at some time in 1985, did you start getting, did you start getting some money, living money from Dan Broderick?
Yes, again, we're still in October '85. He came to my house in La Jolla Shores, and he decided he was going to give me a budget. He wanted me to learn to be independent. And I said I didn't want to do it.
And what kind of budget, what did he do?
Well, he made out what I would need. He decided, because I had no idea what I would need. I've never paid any of the bills. And so he decided that if I had this much for this and this much for that, then I'd need this much for a month. And then at the bottom of the page, he said that he'd continue paying house insurance and taxes and car insurance and health insurance and all these other things, but he'd give me this much a month, and there would be $4,500 for the house payment and the gas and electric and the phone and the gardener and the travel and the food and the maid, and it came, in his estimation, to $9,000 a month.
Now, before that, you had been living on your credit cards?
Yes.
Now, after you learned that there was going to be a divorce and you were not going to be moving into the home at Calle de Cielo, did you, at some point in time, did you try to get the furniture from Mr. Broderick? Try to get some furniture back?
Well, in December, I got the letter that he was... No, I didn't, because we only had one set of furniture, and the children were living in that house, and we only had one set of furniture. One dining room, one living room, one bed for each person. I didn't take any of that away from my children to bring into my house, no. My house was still a mess. It needed to be either torn down or repaired or moved out of.
Okay. Were you
I couldn't bring the kids to live there. There were no kitchen appliances. There was nothing. There was no cooktop. There was no refrigerator. There was nothing.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, did it become evident to you that that you were going to have to do something with that home? Do some repairs so that you could continue to live there?
Yes. On credit cards, I went to an appliance store and I bought every appliance for the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so at least I could have food in a refrigerator and cook, and had to have a sink put in. I had to have countertops put in, and as long as you could cook in it, then you could sleep in it.
Okay.
And eat. And I bought a bed, and I bought towels, and I had to buy everything. Salt and peppers and knives and forks and sheets, and because I didn't have anything.
And you were doing this on credit cards at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Was there new carpet in the house when you moved in?
No.
What was the carpet like?
There had been a fire in the living room, in the carpet.
Did you eventually replace that when you learned that the house wasn't going to be torn down?
Right. In the beginning, when I did the credit cards and bought...
Excuse me, non-responsive.
No. Just ask another question, Mr. Early.
What did you, do you remember when you finally replaced the carpet?
No.
Now, Mr. Broderick, did he eventually move out of the Coral Reef home?
Yes, I got a letter. It might have been the one same letter that, number one, informed me that he was taking the children skiing over Christmas. And number two informed me that while he was gone, I had a chance to take what I wanted out of the garage, because when he came back, he'd be moving. He was moving to that Marston Hills home that he bought. I think it's all in one letter. Is it?
Did you go get some stuff out of the garage?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that was the extra furniture that was in there?
And with things he didn't want. We had 2 love seats and a breakfast set with 4 chairs that he had washed the cushions in the washer and dryer, and it was 100% wool, and he ruined the love seats, and they were not usable as they were. So I took those, and then the breakfast seats were a mess. So I took those and I had them recovered. And I took a shelf system that he built when we were in medical school or something, and I took some things, but nothing for the living room.
Okay. And
I did take the dining room. Later, I got the dining room, but I didn't take it. He must have had it delivered by a truck or something.
Okay, did you go into the house and take stuff out, or just take stuff out of the garage at that time?
Out of the garage.
Okay. Now, eventually, did he move out of the house in Coral Reef and move to?
Yes.
To?
January, right when he came back from Christmas, I think.
Okay. Now, is that a house that, that you and he had looked at before?
Yes. While we were together and there was no separation even, he brought home a picture of that house. And it's a beautiful house. And he wanted me to look at it because we were looking at gorgeous homes places. And so I went over there with the children one afternoon and I drove by it and I looked at it and I really, really liked it. But I didn't like the neighborhood that it was in for the children. I didn't want to live over there.
Okay.
There was nobody for them to play with. It was not a family neighborhood. And these were suburban kids. We lived on streets where every house had children. And, you know, there's all our facilities were in La Jolla and stuff. And it didn't seem like a safe neighborhood. A man was murdered in the canyon behind it the same week I looked at it. There's a big canyon with transients in it. And it was a high crime area. It was just not a family neighborhood.
Did you, did he move out of the Coral Reef home into the Cypress home?
Years later, yes. A long time later.
No, did he move out of in 1985, in January of '86, did he move out of Coral Reef and into Cypress?
Right, but that was a long time after I looked at the house.
Yes, okay. When he did that, did he leave things behind in Coral Reef?
I don't think so.
Okay. So the house was completely empty, he didn't leave any toys, any trampolines, anything at all at Coral Reef when he
No,
lived
he had to have delivered that stuff to my house because I didn't have a truck and I'm not a moving man and I don't remember carrying it out.
Okay.
But at one point I ended up with our old dining room set and a garage full of humongous boxes of all the kids' books and toys and all their belongings and sporting equipment and their bicycles and the trampoline. I ended up with the trampoline. I ended up with all the kids' what he called junk. He didn't want it at his new house.
Okay. And who had custody of the children at that time?
There was no custody arrangement. They were physically living in Coral Reef because that was the only roof we had that they could be happy under and safe under. And then he got a restraining order in October of '85, and he used that as custody because if I couldn't get within 100 yards of the house where my kids were, I couldn't get to see my kids. So I didn't realize it until a long time later that that's what happened. He used the restraining order as a custody order. And that shouldn't have happened.
Okay. So at the beginning, when there was no custody order that you were aware of
No.
in 1985?
No.
Okay. Were you kept away from seeing the kids by something? Or was
Yes,
that...
by this restraining order. I was very scared by it because I was defiant and I did go see the kids as much as I could, but I was very scared because he was threatening to every time I came within 100 yards of my own house to see my own kids that I was liable to be thrown in jail.
Through 1985 and through the first half of 1986, were you aware of any custody order where you were not allowed to see the kids?
In July of '86?
All the way through, up until July of '86?
No, there was never a custody meeting. There was never an agreement. There was no child support meeting. There was no meeting on anything.
Okay. Was there, at that point in time, the restraining order, was that also included not to talk to Dan Broderick?
I don't believe so.
Were you ever served with a restraining order that forbid you to talk to your children, that you were
No.
aware of?
No.
Okay. Did you try to, after he moved to the Cypress home in 1986, did you try to get some more of the furniture that he had?
Yes. After it became apparent that the furniture, or half of the furniture supposedly that he took, he had no interest in. He bought everything new in the Cypress home. Decorator, perfect, much fancier.
Was there a time, if you can just answer yes or no, was there a time that you tried to get the furniture that he had at Coral Reef and had moved over to Cypress?
Yes.
And what was the reason that you tried to get that furniture?
because apparently he didn't want it. And I could have used it because I didn't want to spend money buying new stuff. And he bought new stuff, and it was in his garage piled up. And he didn't want it, so I might as well be able to get it back, but he said no, I couldn't have it.
Now, you had a budget at that time, did you not?
The 9,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have, any time when he wrote out the budget, did he include money in that to to rebuild a house on
No,
Cowlitz?
my budget was clothes and food and rent and stuff, but there was no budget for lawyers or for remodeling or repairing a house or for refurnishing a house and buying towels and everything new. It was just a monthly budget that you'd use every month, but there was no provision in it for all these extraordinary things I had to invest in.
So there was
Mainly
no-
the house and legal fees.
So there was no time where he gave a budget and gave you anything for legal fees?
Never.
Did you come to learn sometime in December, January of 1985 and 86, December of 85, January of 86, that he wanted to sell Coral Reef?
Yes.
And did you want to sell that home?
No, not at that time.
And why not?
Because it was the one asset in the whole world that had my name on half. So I knew he could cheat me out of anything else, but I didn't think he could cheat me out of that because my name was on half. And we are in a split up now, and we are in the process of a divorce, and I figured it was a bargaining table. And I've got what I've got and you've got what you've got, and we're going to talk about switching and stuff, and that was the only thing on my side of the bargaining table was half of that house. And I didn't want to give it up until I knew what I was trading it for.
Now, there was some testimony about that house being a depreciating asset. In other words, that house in La Jolla was going to, if it wasn't sold, was going to be going down in value. You were going to be losing money. Do you remember a conversation about that? That where someone
I
told-
don't think I was part of that conversation. I think that's what he told Mr. Jaffe that time. No, the house could have been rented for about 3 times what it cost to keep it going, and it would have been a great investment to keep.
Now, at the time that they were talking to you about depreciating assets, did they talk about selling, for instance, a duplex in Dillon that was losing about twice its value a year?
No, there was no discussion of selling anything else, just that.
Did they talk to you about selling a historical building that was...
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. Said there was no discussion of anything else.
Stay.
Your Honor, perhaps we can approach our disagreement.
All right. Well, there's no disagreement. I haven't asked a question, Your Honor.
Fine. Go ahead, ask your question.
I'd like to show you a document to see if this refreshes your recollection as to any of these assets, as to whether there was talk about any of these being depreciated.
Objection, Your Honor, she's answered the question.
Well, you can see the refresh.
About what, Your Honor? She didn't indicate that she had no recollection. She said no, there was no discussion.
I'm just going to show her, and if she says there was no discussion, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Just read these to yourself. If there was no discussion about those, then fine.
Should I answer?
Yes, was there any discussion about those at that time?
My name didn't appear on any of these properties, so he wouldn't have had to discuss anything that he did with them with me. There was no mention. I didn't even know about half of these things.
The at that time, did anyone sit down and give you a list of family-owned assets and ask you whether you wanted to sell any of them or not, or what you wanted to do with them?
No.
Okay. You're not going to go into a whole new area here.
It's okay. Recess for the day?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our afternoon recess at this time. Please remember the admonition over the weekend not to discuss the case among yourselves, nor let anyone else discuss it with you, nor form any opinions till it's finally submitted to you. And be extra careful not to watch, listen, or read anything about the case. Have a nice weekend.